Welcome back to the Gamer Back podcast, and I'll be recording a quick little video today. We are about 2 weeks removed from the Pokemon Legends ZA announcement, and a little bit of the dust has settled, and so I think it's about time I spoke about the game besides my initial reaction, and I have written down a little list of basically the things I would like to see in this game. And this is mostly uh, features, not story predictions, not form like Pokemon, the Mega Evolution predictions. It's not going to be clickbaity. Where I know a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers are like, "Oh, these Mega Evolutions are confirmed in Pokemon Legends ZA. These new Pokemon are getting forms confirmed in Legends ZA. These Pokemon have to return. This is going to be the story." It's like, no, we really don't know anything about this game besides the name and part of the setting and the year that it's releasing on. You know, um, that's it. We know nothing, and we're probably going to know nothing for a while, for at least a couple months. Hopefully, we get more news in May, maybe a gameplay trailer. And we don't even know how the game's supposed to be pronounced. Is it Pokemon Legends ZA, Pokemon Legends Z through A, Z2A? I've heard some people call it Pokemon Legends Zeta, which I don't know how you're getting where you're getting Zeta from. Because if it was Pokemon Legends Zeta, it'd be, and Zeta for me seems just a little out of place considering we already got Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, what, like 8 years ago or something? So why would they be bringing back that naming convention for a completely unrelated region? And, that just seems a little weird to me, but who knows? I might be wrong. Um, so yeah, my list is going to be features, gameplay features I want to see in Pokemon Legends Z through A. And before I get into that, I will be also saying that this game, I've always been of the thought that Pokemon Z version, if there was an X, Y, and then if Z came out, could have been the best Pokemon game. Because if you look at Pokemon's previous track record up until the X and Y release, the third versions have always been a lot better. And they were working their way up in terms of third versions or upper versions, I guess we should say, because Black 2 White 2 is not a third version. But the second release of the generation has always been a lot better. You look at um, Emerald compared to, even if you go all the way back in time, Yellow is just straight up the better version of Red and Blue. Crystal is the better version of Gold and Silver. Emerald is leagues, in my opinion, beyond Ruby and Sapphire in terms of quality. And then you go Diamond and Pearl, which, listen, Diamond and Pearl are my first ever Pokemon games. Pokemon Diamond. One of my first ever video games, actually, was Pokemon Diamond. And I think I am mature enough as a Pokemon fan to say that Pokemon Diamond is one of the worst Pokemon games. However, Pokemon Platinum is probably my second favorite. Pokemon Platinum is like the jump in quality from Diamond and Pearl to Platinum is it's almost ridiculous how they came back that hard, in my opinion. The story is so much. The story in Diamond and Pearl is slow. It does not make sense. It drags on. Characters kind of have pointless motivations. Platinum fixes all of that. It speeds up the engine. The engine. It excuse that notification. Speeds up the engine. It makes the overworld look nicer. It fixes bugs. It adds new Pokemon to catch in the overworld to make your team variety better. It adds new trainers. It adds an insane post game with the Battle Frontier. The leap from Diamond Pearl to Platinum is ridiculous. And then you go to Black and White to Black and White 2, which is not exactly the same, but for the sake of my argument that the second release of a region is always better, uh, Black and White is already a great game. Black and White 2 is the best Pokemon game. You know, you have this awesome foundation of Black and White to work with, and then you take Black and White 2 and you give it the longest, most expansive post game with the most content out of any Pokemon game. You give it you bring back the national decks, so you have an insane before the post game. The amount of Pokemon you can catch in Black and White 2 is ridiculous. You can build your team in so many different ways. You have so much overworld things to do. You have Joint Avenue, you have PokeStar Studios, you have the Battle Institute, the Battle Subway, not to mention the best battle facility in the Pokemon World Tournament. That's all before you even unlock the post game. The post game opens up even more than that. And there's great story, and there's great character work, and there's great world building and mythology. Pokemon Black and White 2 just sets the precedence for like the second release of a region, you know? So naturally, you're building this up where Emerald is better than Ruby Sapphire. Then Platinum is better than Diamond, is so much better than Diamond and Pearl. Black and White 2 is even better than that. So what comes next? Z should have been even better. But we never got Z. It never came. Who knows why? Who knows? Nobody knows. But this is obviously Pokemon Legends Z will not be the Pokemon Z that I envisioned as a child and envisioned as an adult. But but this is the chance for Kalos to kind of have this redemption arc, this redemption where this could be the game that Z not should have been, but spiritually should have been, where it improves the Kalos region so much that it basically becomes the best game ever. Because Kalos kind of suffers from that Diamond and Pearl, where the story is not super strong, the characters lack motivation. World building is pretty mid in X and Y, but it has great setup for a potential story. You know, and if Z came in and made the characters gave characters better motivation, made fixed the level curve because X and Y is also really easy. And basically, if Z came in and fixed a lot of the issues that X and Y had, and added on top of that, you would have had one of the best Pokemon games ever because X and Y was such a great foundation. That's what I think. And if ZA builds off of that foundation in the way that Z should have back in 2014, we have a recipe for something great. And I have another thing I've said to preface before I get into my list. Before this direct, you can even go back in the last video, the predictions video that Russell and I recorded. I said that this is make or break. This is absolutely make or break for the Pokemon Company and Game Freak and whatever. Where if they announce something stupid, a lot of people will not be happy and probably not buy it and probably drop off the franchise. Which happens when Sun and Moon came. Sun and Moon is a weird. It kind of happens every once in a while. It's not just Sun and Moon, but Sun and Moon is my example because when they announced, I didn't get Sun and Moon on release. I did not like it from the trailers, and then I got the game years later and I didn't like it because I knew it was something I was not gonna like. And even go back to Black and White. A lot of people dropped off when Gen 5 released. But that's just getting off topic here. But here's the thing. Scarlet Violet is one of the best selling Pokemon games. It's the best selling Pokemon game on the Switch. Pokemon players are at not an all time high, but it's certainly up there. So even though Scarlet Violet was not the greatest game in the world, Pokemon Company has to capitalize from a business point of view. They have to capitalize on the fact that they have brought in a ton of players with Scarlet and Violet, even if that was bad or good. And since they have so many eyes on their product, they had to announce something unique. They had to announce something special. And they did, which makes me believe and makes me think that this game is not going to be bad. Obviously, once again, we know nothing about it. But the sheer fact that for the first time in a long time, it feels like the Pokemon Company made a good business decision because this announcement could have easily been an Ilka Gen 5 remake. or a Let's Go Johto, or some schlop, or it could have been nothing. They could have not capitalized at all. If this was an Ilka Gen 5 announcement, I think a lot of people would be upset and not a lot of people would be happy. People would still buy the game, but it would not have this, and it would have been an easy. It would have been what Game Freak is, or not Game Freak, excuse me. I try to refrain from saying Game Freak because I believe the Pokemon Company is where the issues lie the most. But it would have been like a big blow for the Pokemon Company if they put out something weird, basically. Personally, I would have wanted Let's Go Johto, but I know a lot of people don't like Let's Go games. So the fact that the Pokemon Company is making a good business decision makes me think to myself that they have a direction that they're going in, and that they have realized that they have to step up. And this is a lot of assumptions I'm making, but I have a pretty decent sense of you know how this type of stuff works because it's what I study. Um, Aside from the front point, I'm making the assumption that this game is going to be not only good, not only great, but like a top five Pokemon game. Because here's the thing, it has two foundations to work off of. Two excellent, excellent foundations. You have the initial foundation of Pokemon X and Y that has set up so much world building and lore for a upper version, third version that was never capitalized on. So you have all of that left over from the Kalos region. And two, you have the Pokemon Legends formula, which, at first Pokemon Legends was not like received super well for some reason. But as the time passed, it's been a little over 2 years. The outcry for the Legends formula has been fantastic. As a day one Legends endorser, I'm so happy that Pokemon Legends Arceus is like being recognized as one of the better Pokemon games now. The thing is, it was Legends Arceus was still missing that something. It was still missing something from keeping it being truly, truly great and like peaking it into the top echelon of Pokemon games or whatever. And I always thought, whatever comes after Legends Arceus must be really good because they've set up so well. But obviously, what came out after Legends Arceus was Scarlet and Violet. And Scarlet and Violet capitalized on nothing. Nothing that Legends set up. The gameplay formula, the catching, the battling, they had nothing. You know. But that's why I think that probably because Scarlet Violet and Legends Arceus was developed at the same time, they couldn't take all the good stuff from Legends Arceus and put it into Scarlet Violet because of either time constraints or short staff or something. Which is why I thought that whatever the game comes after Scarlet Violet must be make or break and will show the true colors of Game Freak. Because if this game that was not capitalizing on that Legends formula and what Legends set up, I would have been like, okay, they've lost the plot, they've missed it. It's over basically. This was their last chance for me, and so far, just by calling it Legends, makes me think that they are capitalizing on the foundation that Legends set up. All right, let's get into this list. From the top, I have it written on my phone, so I won't be pulling up on my PC because it's got some embarrassing spelling mistakes. I jotted it down really quickly. From top to bottom, but this isn't really in an order or anything. Number one, Legends Battle Style Return. I think because the Legends game is not the VGC game, it's not what's being played in tournaments, it's not what's being played in, at the Pokemon World Cup or whatever it's called. You have the wiggle room to do something weird, like Legends Arceus did. And I'm not saying it has to exactly be the agile and strong styles, but something similar, where you have that that like turn system in the upright quarter where like faster Pokemon can go 2 times in a turn. If it's a multi battle, you see the amount of turns before you go next. Basically, bring back that and bring back some type of something similar to agile and strong style, but doesn't have to exactly be that, or it can be exactly that, but something unique and fresh to make battling different from the main series, or you know what I mean. This is main series, but from the VGC game. Two, the Legends catching style. I think the gameplay loop of Legends revolves heavily around the catching style. And here's the great part about it. I don't like turn-based combat. I know, ironic, and I'm such a big Pokemon fan. I don't like turn-based combat. So Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was awesome for me because I did not have to do turn-based combat to catch Pokemon, and I loved it. I had a blast in that game, literally because every wild Pokemon I was not forced to battle them. I was not forced to, and there are some really annoying Pokemon to catch. Pokemon that will riddle you with status conditions. There are Pokemon that will just run away from you. There are Pokemon that have low catch rates. But with removing the turn-based system and just letting you catch it straight up, circumvents all that, and just obviously that system was very flawed, but it was a basic system, and I liked it. And then the bigger fights like legendaries and static Pokemon, you did have to battle before you caught them, which it added, a type of weight to that, where this Pokemon is more important, where you can't just run up to it and throw a Pokeball. It's not the same as your average Rattata. This is an Articuno. You have to battle it first, and then you get to try to catch it. You know what I mean? I really liked it personally. I know other people didn't like it. Legends Arceus fixes that completely because you get the choice for every single encounter now. Actually, with legendaries, I believe you still have to battle, which I still like because that means legendaries you should not be able to just run up and catch them. There should be some type of requirement beforehand. But every single Pokemon now, you can battle them, you can catch them within the turn-based system, or you can use stealth and like overworld items to stun them and sneak up with them and catch them without having to go into a turn-based battle system. And that's what I really like. So as long as there's that choice between you can catch the traditional route and battle them and weaken them and get them into the red zone on their health and toss a Pokeball, or you can use your stealth and you can use your you have your sticky hold items in Legends Arceus. You have your like berries that you can throw and they'll go and they'll eat them and you can sneak up on them like that. Just give me the option, basically. That way, people like me are happy, and people that aren't like me are also happy and you kind of satisfy both parties there. So I really think that needs to come back because in Scarlet Violet, when that didn't come back, I was really disappointed, especially because they implement a stealth system in Scarlet Violet that does not work. You can sneak up on Pokemon, kind of, but then they get notified of you when you stand up, and you have to stand up to throw Pokeballs, and you can't really target and aim correctly in that game either. So it was just felt like a step down from Legends Arceus to me. Excuse me. So next up on my list, more overworld trainers. Um, and let me make this more specific. Traditional overworld trainers. Scarlet Violet, the trainers, you don't have to sit and battle a single trainer in the overworld. It's not because in previous games, if you get in the line of sight of a trainer, obviously you'll battle them. In Scarlet Violet, you can walk around them, dance around them. They won't battle you unless you go to them and talk to them. And I don't like that. I don't. I'm not a big fan of that because maybe I'm just like an old schooler Pokemon fan or something. But I think the fact that you have to in older games there are fights you have to fight because wild Pokemon you can avoid tall grass, you can run from them if you do encounter them. Uh, you there's no way around some trainer battles on routes. In Scarlet Violet, you it doesn't matter. And you could say, oh, but the open world formula breaks that regardless because you can just walk around them. Well, there's a solution that exists in old Pokemon games too. Have them track you, have them walk around, or have them be hidden. In older Pokemon games, used to have characters hiding in like bushes, hiding in trees and stuff, like the Ninja Boys in the Hoenn games. They would like hide in mounds of dirt, and you wouldn't see them, and they pop out at you. In Black and White too, if you were moving at a certain speed, if you were like running past them, the trainer would track you, so you could not run around them. And we had old trainers that used to walk around. In every Pokemon game, I'm pretty sure there's mobile trainers. Scarlet Violet, the trainers don't move, they don't rotate, they don't surprise you, they don't even want to battle you. And it feels stupid. So I think bring back those type of trainers where you have to battle them unless you like go completely out of your way to not battle them or something ridiculous. But yeah, bring back traditional overworld trainers. which once again Legends Arceus kind of lacks, but they do exist in a very very minuscule form in the Misfortune Sisters, where if you get in their line of sight, and they're kind of hidden too, but if you get in the line of sight of the Misfortune Sisters, they will battle you. You don't have to walk up to them and talk to them. And actually, if you sneak up on them, you get to go a turn before them too, which is kind of would also be a cool implementation to this Pokemon Legends ZA game, where like let's say you sneak up on the trainer instead of them sneak up on you, and you get to go first in the battle. That would be kind of cool. But yes, the return of traditional overworld trainers. I guess it doesn't have to be overworld, but because this is going to go into one of my next points, that being dungeons. What does Scarlet Violet and Legends Arceus kind of lack? A good old Pokemon dungeon. And in fact, I'll go as far as to say, uh, probably Sun and Moon is like you did away with the traditional dungeon. You know, because routes in Sun and Moon are essentially just straight lines, and there's not really any big cave systems. And the caves that are in Scarlet Violet, it's just like it's more of a tunnel than a cave. And the Galar Mine 1 and 2 just being once again a straight line all the way through. That's not a dungeon. It's just it's a glorified route basically. But you go back to the Pokemon games of old. You have biggest one, the biggest example I can think of, Coronet Mountain, where there's actual puzzles that you have to like not exactly puzzles, but they're just little brain teasers with HMs. I know the HMs have been done away with, but you can still implement some type of depth and variety to your locations in Pokemon games. It doesn't have to be just walk straight through and get to the other side without having to battle a single wild Pokemon, without having to battle a single trainer, without having a single challenge in your way. It's just it's a that's nothing. That's not good. But if you let's say if I was in Area Zero in Scarlet Violet, and to prevail to the next section, I had to meet some requirement that was like provided in the location. Like if I basically just let me do the strength TM or strength HM like games again, have me push something or like maybe even have a game where since Area Zero has some technology, there's like a gate up and you have to like time a button press or something to differentiate it from just walking through this area without having to do anything to get to the next point is all I'm asking. And you can have trainers down there that aren't essentially overworld trainers that also, want to battle you or whatever. Because in Scarlet Violet, there's no motivation to battle trainers, and there's no motivation to battle trainers in Legends Arceus either because they don't exist. But in you go back to X and Y to get from point A to point B on every route. The challenge is battle the trainers, or you can avoid some trainers, but some trainers were always unavoidable. So get to point A to point B by battling your Pokemon, and then in dungeon stuff, there was HM puzzles, there was other, surf, mazes, but Scarlet Violet, that stuff just does not exist, and I think that has to come back for Legends ZA. And you're wondering, how are you going to implement dungeons in presumably only Lumiose City? Because allegedly, this game will only be set within Lumiose City, which I don't think is a problem. I can understand people's disappointment where they want to see the entire Kalos region get revisited, but I'm somewhat okay with this as long as Lumiose City gets really upscaled and becomes really massive. But here's how you implement dungeons. You walk into a building and it's a construction site. And you have to navigate through this dangerous construction site where the construction workers want to battle you, and you have to get to a certain point on the construction site to get an item, to like a key to get to a different building and continue the story. Simple as that. It's that easy. I just thought of it on the spot. Done. So yes, I'd like to see dungeons make a return. And with those last 2 points, side quests. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to do in newer Pokemon games. I was gonna say Scarlet Violet, but this really tracks like excuse me, there's sirens passing by. Sorry if you guys hear that. This really tracks to like the diminishment of side quests starting in I'd like to say Sun and Moon, but even that game has some. But like you go back to Black and White 2, there is so many just random encounters on the overworld for you to do. There's like the ones that stand out to me are the Ferris wheel. Every day, if you go to the Ferris wheel, there's a new NPC, or sometimes new, sometimes old, that they'll like talk to you and give you like it's almost pointless, but it builds the world. It makes the world feel alive. Even if you don't want to do this stuff and you just want to blast through the story, you can do that. But for someone like me that really likes the Unova region and really likes the character work in Black and White and Black and White 2, these things are there for me. And if these games existed in Scarlet Violet, it would make the game better and it would, almost give, you know, not an excuse for the game to run so poorly, but it would be something in favor of the game. If Because people tell me, "Oh, I love Scarlet Violet," I'm saying, what is there to love about it? There's not compared to. But I always compare to Black and White 2 because that's my favorite game and my favorite region, and a lot of my favorite things. But you say, "Oh, I love the character work in Scarlet Violet." Black and White 2 did it better. I love the region. Black and White 2 did it better. I love the story. Black and White 2 did it better. I love the post game. Black and White 2 still did it better. I'm just saying. And part of that reason that Unova feels like such a great reason is because there are all these things to do. You have the Ferris wheel, where you can go and every single day a new person will be waiting there for you. And sometimes it's a person you know. Sometimes it'll be Charon, Bianca, and sometimes it'll be a random NPC. There is the X transceiver quest where there's like a movie star that loses their phone and you find the phone and you have to go to different locations to call them and like eventually you get to battle and trade with them when you meet them. It's so cool. You have the quest in Opelucid City where in both games in Black 2 it's different from White 2 where in Black 2 it's a father trying to make sure his son's future will be okay. And in White 2, it's a son who never met his father, wondering what his father's past was like. And that's so cool to me that just like those things exist in the world. And that's only the surface. In Twist Mountain, there's the man who will quiz you every day about construction vehicles. And you're wondering, how the hell am I supposed to know about construction vehicles? That's a great question. You got to figure it out for yourself. He'll ask you, it's kind of a trial and everything, but like he'll quiz you on construction like things. And you have to go every day in a row. And if you get the questions right for I think like 7 days, he'll give you was it a fossil? I don't remember, but he gives you something. There's Anvil Town, where if you go there, and this is like Anvil Town's so complex because it's not just a days of the week thing; it's like a days of the month thing. If you go on different days of the month, a different train will be sitting there, and there'll be a guy who talks to you about the mechanics of a train and all the different types of train, like real world trains, not just trains in the Pokemon world. And that's super interesting. It's there. You don't have to do it, but it's available for you to do. And if you see all the trains, you get a little medal. Not to mention achievements. That's the motivation to do all this stuff, really. Because Black and White 2 is the achievement system, where if you see all the trains, you get a medal. If you get the construction quiz right, you get a medal. If you do all the X Retriever quests, you get a medal. Aside from that, I don't think the medal system will ever come back. But there was a motivation to do those things if you really were a completionist. But yes, I'd like side quests and side activities to do, not just nothing. Which Legends Arceus kind of it has those. Uh, Legends Arceus does technically have side quests, but they all fetch quests. They're not all of them are fetch quests. There's a couple good ones, but a lot of them are just bring me this Pokemon, show me this Pokemon extra small though, show me this Pokemon extra large, bring me an Alpha Pokemon. But some of them are like, oh, go to this spot and like dig or whatever with Ursaluna and find a lore dump. It's like a mini, like an actual mini plot line, basically. Those are the ones I want back, not just fetch quests, not just delivery quests. Those are pretty surface level. I want things that are actually intuitive, not to sound pretentious or anything. Pretentious. Okay, next up, these go hand in hand. I want abilities and held items. And you might be saying, PJ, you know, those never went away. Yes, they did. Yes, they. So the two games that I've praised for being unique and turning away from conventional Pokemon, which is Let's Go and Legends Arceus, neither of them have abilities or held items. Why were those gone to begin with? those abilities of Hell Items are only good things. And I think taking them away was one of Legends Arceus' biggest mistakes. And I understand some abilities will make the turn-based system in that game like all weird, but that's the game where where combat should be strange. That's the game where you should be taking liberties with your combat system. So introduce the abilities, and you can even, if an ability is too specific, just take it out. That's what they did with moves. There's no earthquake in Legends Arceus because that would screw up the combat system. If an ability is really going to mess with the combat system that much, take it out. If items going to mess with the combat system that much, take it out. But held items and abilities, I think, are at the top. If I had to prioritize these, they would be at the top. They would actually be at the top because I think using a Pokemon without their ability is just it's kind of bland. And if that was added onto the combat system, it would actually make the combat system a lot more fun and intuitive. But moving on from that, Lumosian forms. I'm saying Lumosian forms because the game's advertised to only be in Lumiose. But whatever you want to call it, whether it's going to be Lumosian forms, Kalosian forms, I've heard some people say Zygardian forms. Basically, yes, I want new regional variants for old Pokemon. That's it. Simple as that. I think regional variants are an excellent feature, and I think they need to stay. And yeah, I don't have any specific Pokemon that I want to get Lumosian forms. If I had to pick, I just pick all my favorites, which is why I'm not picking. But I think Lumosian forms, Kalosian forms, Zygardian forms, whatever, Z forms, however you want to call it, a regional form for this new game must exist. Done. Easy. Another easy one. New Megas. There need to be new Megas. Excuse me. There needs to be new Megas in this game. It has been the last time we got new Megas was actually 2014 in the release of ORAS. It's been 10 years since we got a new Mega Pokemon. That's 10 years worth of new Pokemon that don't never got the opportunity to get Megas. Never even were in games with Megas, If you they're Pokemon that even older Pokemon that like desperately need Megas, you know? So I think this game needs new Mega Pokemon. Once again, I'm not going to name which ones should be getting Megas because I just named my favorites. But I think new Megas, and also if I had to extend this point even further, keep Mega Evolutions around for good. Don't get rid of them. I never understood why they were gotten rid of in the first place. They are so easily marketable. They're beloved. They are easy to make. It's almost like they had the perfect mechanic, and they got rid of it. And they got rid of it for Gigantamax, which I have a different conspiracy theory that I think Gigantamax forms were originally supposed to be Mega forms, new Megas, and then they twisted it to be different for some reason. But in my opinion, Megaforms from a business, gameplay, from every single type of standpoint, is the way to go and should be here to stay. Done. Next up on my list, DLC, downloadable content. This game should have DLC. Legends Arceus should have had DLC. It doesn't have to be insane. It doesn't have to be a whole new game. Although if it was, that would be nice. But this game has to have, and let me also buff this statement out. It has to have a post game and then have DLC. Legends Arceus had a post game, like an expansive post game, a long post game, and a lot of stuff to do in that post game. You had the Battle Reverie. You had completing the Pokedex. You know, is a bit more of an actual thing to do in Legends Arceus. You have Legendary Hunting, which should be a standard. You have battling or rematching the trainers in Jubilife Village. You have, you know, a handful of different things to do, like a decent post game. And then if Legends Arceus got a DLC campaign after that, it would have been awesome. However, I think Legends Arceus got robbed of their DLC in favor for Scarlet Violet development. And I think it's also evident that things that were supposed to be in PLA DLC just got shoved into PLA development. That being the majority of the stuff in Kitakami, I feel like was supposed to be Legends Arceus content. But that's just another one of my crack crackpot conspiracy theories right there. But like Blood Moon Ursa Luna, you're gonna tell me that that was not planned originally as PLA DLC? Whatever though. But yes, this game should have a decent post game, and it should have a DLC campaign. I would gladly pay money to go because this. Let's say this game takes place only in Lumio City, but then the DLC area lets you go to somewhere else in Kalos. I am down. I'm down for that. The power plant. Give me the power plant DLC. You know, or have the DLC go to a different region. Have the Galar DLC where it takes place in a developing Wingdon. I think that'd be kind of cool. But once again, I'm not gonna fantasize too much about this because realistically, it could be anything. We don't know anything about this game, and a lot of the things that people will fantasize about. I'm using the word fantasize. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but a lot of YouTubers they'll try to predict the game story and try to predict the game's DLC and what new forms we're getting. And frankly, a lot of it isn't good. And I think Pokemon Company has better judgment when actually writing a story than just some random YouTuber. But this game should have DLC, good DLC, and a good post game. Okay, next up, following Pokemon and following Pokemon actually working because that seems like something that for some reason is super inconsistent. Uh, and here's what I'll say: the it should be the following Pokemon very similar to Let's Go, the Let's Go games, because in those games the Pokemon actually move correctly, if that makes sense. Like in BDSP, following Pokemon, they don't work. They don't have pathfinding. Like they just follow straight behind you, and they also don't play the correct walking animation, and they also don't move with the correct speed, and they can block your path and stuff like that. But in Let's Go, those games, every Pokemon they don't just follow straight behind you. They actually have pathfinding where like they'll run around the map. Like if you have a Growlithe out in that game, he won't just follow you. He won't just shadow you. He'll like run off to the side and interact with the map, and sometimes pick up an item or like have like a little emoticon bubble or something. It should be like that. And even in those games, you can ride some Pokemon and you can move faster and like get to places you couldn't get before. Like if you ride an Onix in that game, you will be physically higher up on the map, and you'll be able to encounter flying Pokemon. You know, and if you fly on Charizard, you can do the same thing, which is that's pretty basic. But in an open world game like Legends Arceus, or I'm sorry, Legends ZA, let's say I want to ride my Onix, I should be able to sit on top of him and then get to the top of a building or something, or encounter a Pokemon that's on a lamppost. And I should be able to ride my Go-Go and be able to move faster through the streets of Lumiose City. But yes, I want basically a better version of the following Pokemon system from Let's Go games. I understand that can be hard to implement for a dex of 200, 300, 400, however many Pokemon be in this game, but at least have a selection of Pokemon that work like that. And also, because I another thing, uh, Legends Arceus does ride Pokemon really well with Basculegion, Weirdeer, Braviary is really great. But I always want to ride my Pokemon. You're just riding wild Pokemon in that game. I want to ride my Braviary. I want to ride, especially if I have a shiny. I want to ride my shiny Braviary. I think that would look cool. In Let's Go, you can ride your shiny Charizard. You can ride your shiny Onix. You can, have your shiny Growlithe follow you around. I'm just saying. I know I'm asking for a lot with this one, but I think it'd be good, and it'd be really cool, and a lot of people would like it if they were riding their Pokemon. Moving on from this point, ride Pokemon I had next, but I just lumped that in. But yeah, following and ride Pokemon are kind of in the same boat for me. Okay, this one's it might be a little bit of a harder one to do, so it's lower on my priority list. But multiple Pokemon out at once. In Legends Arceus, you can toss your team out, your entire team, for like photo opportunities, and just to have them interact with each other and go up to them and talk to them and collect items in the overworld. Let's say there's a berry tree and there's like a mineral deposit, and then there's a something else over there. You can toss three Pokemon out at once to all go collect those things. But in Scarlet Violet, you can only have one Pokemon out at one time. I understand they have the Let's Go feature in that game where the Pokemon run around and battle things. But this is why here's my proposition for this, right? you have the Pokemon in the front of your party should be the only one allowed to move. The rest of your Pokemon you can send out for photos and to collect stuff from the overworld. But the first Pokemon, or at least have a designated Pokemon that's like this is the Pokemon that's gonna run around and like move with you, and you can ride. But your other Pokemon you can still toss out to do tasks on the map. But that some variation. Basically, all I want is Pokemon to feel alive and not just be something else. Whatever. I have on here next point Synchro Machine question mark. I personally don't care for the Synchro Machine. I know a lot of people do like it though, so I've included it for the sake of people that are not like me. I don't really care for the Synchro Machine. I think it works weird. Like it's just like it's in a buggy game, so it works really buggily, if buggily, which isn't a real word. But you understand what I'm saying. If the Synchro Machine was in a different game, I think it would be a lot better. I think I'd have a lot more fun with it. But it just I don't find much enjoyment out in it. Just like I don't find much enjoyment in Scarlet Violet as a whole. So potentially I can warm up to a Synchro Machine like feature in a future game. It doesn't have to be called Synchro Machine, but something similar in Pokemon Legends ZA. Well, let's say maybe you have to fly around as a Talonflame or something like that, and you get to control the Pokemon completely. Then yeah, maybe I'd be down for it. So that's why that's on there. I have two more points, and I've got some weird points. So my second to last one: returning characters. Why has Pokemon stepped away and been like afraid of returning characters? The only returning character that we've gotten since Sword and Shield. So we've gotten Sword and Shield, BDSP, Legends Arceus, Scarlet Violet, and we've gotten DLC for two of those games. So that's like six releases essentially. And only one returning character in all of those. Returning character, as in this was a character that was introduced in a previous game that we physically see and plays a story role in a newer game. Here's an example: Cynthia in Black and White. She's obviously the champion of the Sinnoh games, but she shows up in Black and White as a side thing to do. That's a smaller example. But how about Steven Stone in the I'm sorry, in Heart Gold Soul Silver? He shows up to give you a starter. Just it makes the Pokemon world feel interconnected and feel like these games they matter to each other. You know, but the fact that not a single returning character is in the Galar region makes it just feel like it makes it feel so disconnected from every other game, and I don't think that's a good thing. And you might be wondering who's the one returning character in all these games? It's Ingo in Pokemon Legends Arceus. He's the only returning character we've gotten in so long. Before him, the last returning character was Mina in Let's Go. Mina being the art trial captain from Ultra Sun Ultra Moon. She returns in the Let's Go games, and that makes it feel like, oh wow, this is like part of this generation of Pokemon because you have a Gen 7 character showing up in a later Gen 7 game that does not take place in the same region. Whatever, you get it. But I think returning characters, so it would be not, and I understand this game takes place in the past, which it's hard to do that without time travel shenanigans. But here's the thing: Pokemon Legends Arceus has so many new established characters that could easily one or two of them could show up in this game. And there's even characters like Volo that leave. There's characters like Rai that leave and we never see them in Legends Arceus again. So where do they go? They could be hanging out in Kalos. Also, you have AZ, who is immortal. So he should be showing up for sure. He should be showing up 100%. If we don't get AZ in this game, I will actually be a little mad because AZ is one of my favorite characters. But yeah, I think it's simple enough to have three or four returning characters. And like Professor Oak was in a lot of older Pokemon games. Where the hell's that guy been? He died, you know. But yes, I think returning characters make the Pokemon world, feel interconnected and make the games feel connected, and is overall a good thing to have. Last point on my sane list is new Lumiose legendaries. I'm not going to design them. I'm not going to give if you wanted me to, I can do this. I can basically think of my own concepts in a different video, but that's not the sake of this video. I'm throwing ideas into the void, into the aether, and hoping they stick to nothing. But another problem I always kind of had with X and Y is where the hell are the legendary Pokemon in that game? You have Xerneas, Yveltal, Zygarde, which are the only Kalos legendaries, and then you have Articuno, Moltres, Zapdos, Mewtwo. But you can only catch one of those birds per game, and you can only catch Zygarde or Yveltal. So let's count them. There's Zygarde or Yveltal. I'm sorry, Xerneas or Yveltal. Then you get Zygarde. Then you get one of the birds, and then you get Mewtwo. That's 4 legendary encounters. That's as many legendary encounters as Red and Blue. That's not good. That's not good. That's not good. That is not good. Um, yeah. So what I'm saying, my solution to this, and here's something that I don't like. I think has become oversaturated. Legendary Pokemon in general, because you have the Swords of Justice are in so many different regions now. They're in Unova, they're in Paldea, they're in Galar. That's 3 regions. I've seen enough of them. There might be another one that I'm not even thinking of. Oh, they're in Ultra Wormholes, so that's a Lola. They're in Hoopa Rings, so they're in Hoenn. Those guys are everywhere. And same goes for the birds. And same goes for the legendary beasts. Same goes for the Reggies. Those legendary Pokemon feel so oversaturated. They appear in so many games where I understand, it's almost like power creep, but for rarity. But that's why my proposition here, to fix the problem of Kalos only having 3 legendary Pokemon, and to fix the problem of legendary oversaturation, introduce new legendaries in this game. Similar to Enamorus in Legends Arceus. I think Enamorus was great. And also Enamorus has been kept really rare. Enamorus has still only appeared in that one game so far. I don't doubt that she'll be back, but it's nice that she's not in Scarlet Violet. And the forces of nature as a whole are not in Scarlet Violet. Aside the point, though, I think there should be a new Lumosian legendary group, whether it's a trio or a quadro, or there's 5 of them or something. I think it'd be really cool. All right, on to my last 3 points. These are just things that I'd like to see that I was always fascinated about as a kid when playing X and Y that I'd like to see expanded on. So this is more story stuff, but I'm not going to get super specific because I don't want to fan book a Pokemon game. Basically, as a child, not a child, I was in middle school. Um, I was fascinated by the Heatran rumor in Lumio City. If I don't, I haven't played X and Y in a very long time, and I'm planning on replaying them soon. But I remember, if you go to one of the plazas in Lumio City, there is a girl there who says, she straight up says like, "Oh, rumor has it a Heatran can be found underneath Lumio City," or something along the lines of that. And you can even hear a faint Heatran cry in certain parts of the plaza, and it was never expanded on. What happened? I think I just want Heatran living in Lumio City. I think it's silly that this big stupid fire bug can exist under Lumios or something. Maybe he's what powers the city. I don't know. But I think that was so odd, and I was convinced that there was a way for me to get Heatran in X and Y for the longest time. Because I also he. I know people don't like Heatran. He's one of my favorite legendaries. I was convinced that you can get Heatran X and Y, and I never did. Anyway, next up, Lumios Ghost Girl. This is a big one. Everyone's talking about this, and yes, it should be. Finally, we should know what that was about. That's like one of the biggest Pokemon mysteries ever, and it was so well done at the time. But the thing is, we never got the payoff. It had people salivating, frothing at the mouth, wondering what was Lumio's Ghost Girl. I remember going on YouTube in 2013, and there were so many videos being like, "Oh, what was the Ghost Girl's truth? We'll get the Ghost Girl in Z. When are we going to find out about the Ghost Girl?" And then they're the playground rumors like, "Oh, if you do this and do that and go up and down a million times in the elevator, and then come out, she'll actually give you an item or whatever, or you'll battle her. And it's like that needs to be followed up on in this game. I don't know why they wouldn't, but they need to do something about that Ghost Girl. Last one is just make AZ's Floette obtainable, whether you catch it or it's a mystery gift distribution or something. I think AZ's Floette is cool. It has a cool signature move, Light of Ruin, and it's never been made obtainable ever. And it's been in every game that Floette's been in. It's been in Pokemon Home, just completely unattainable. And I think this is the game that they need to make it obtainable in. And yep, that is what I've got for you today. Uh, Feel free to comment your ideas or comment how bad my ideas are and that this game is actually garbage. And even though we don't know anything about it, or how I'm disillusioned with hope for the Pokemon franchise. Um, but yep, Game Rec Podcast, Game Rec Podcast, head off.